Hello, all you gamers out there. This is Weedy coming to you with a video about my favorite game at the moment, 7 Days to Die. Today I'm going to be working on some water experiments. I'm trying to figure out the properties of water in the game here. They've changed a few times, various new version releases, so I'm trying to see what's gonna how it behaves in the current iteration, Alpha 14. I want to emphasize that this is basically creative mode. A lot of the things that I'm going to be building and working on are buildable in survival mode, especially if you have the help of a friend. A friend of mine and I have built some pretty substantial fortifications with just, a lot of time invested. But in this case, I want to kind of play around with things. I want to, explore some construction methods to see how they respond or how well they work with a bunch of zombies trying to tear them down. So rather than spend all the time farming everything, I just want to build them up, see how they work, and then move on. I'm not trying to get any cool points for building some huge outpost or some huge fort, because it's creative mode, so you can pretty much build whatever. With that being said, I will be accessing basically the creative menu or cheat menu regularly for whatever I need. Because like I said, I'm really not trying to spend all that time farming and crafting and everything. So right now I'm headed out towards a spot at my favorite lake. So we have a substantial supply of water for the experiments. A couple of things on the agenda will be building an aqueduct and also a cistern. We're going to see how the water behaves when we try and make it go where we want it to go. And we may just end up building something and completely flooding it, but we'll find out. So bear with me. Alright, as you can see here, I'm over by a lake near the center of the map, and I've marked out a space near the lake where I'm going to dig down pretty deep. Basically, in order to get an aqueduct, since we don't have pumps here, we need to build something that I would imagine is lower than the level of the water that we'll be drawing from. So I'm going to have to dig down pretty deep and then either build a trench or a tunnel leading to this water source that will run my aqueduct. And then, of course, as part of the aqueduct cistern type system, we're going to need a deep enough hole to hold some water, at least up to the level. I imagine it's probably going to flood up to the level of the aqueduct outlet. But we'll see. I'm not quite sure how that's going to work. So, I'm going to keep on digging. Okay, as you can see here, we've dug down quite a bit. And a little scaffolding there for reference. And I've started digging a tunnel over to the lake. Now we're going to see, we should be pretty close here. Yeah, looks like breaking through here any minute. And we swam up to the surface. So let's see what happens here. No sign of any water yet. Nope, here's coming down the tunnel a little bit. Oh. It's not moving very far at all. Well, I really thought we would have more water flow there. Let's see, here's our outlet. Looks like it's rushing down here pretty good, but it's not really. Nope. Alright, well, I guess if you don't have water flow, you can't have much of an aqueduct. I don't know. Maybe we'll give it a little more time, see what happens. Okay, it's been a little while and I'm not seeing a whole lot of movement here, so I think what I'm going to try next is I'm going to try and angle the bottom of the floor, or I'm sorry, the floor of the tunnel away from the lake and see if that does any good. Okay, that appears to be doing the trick. I know obviously in a real world aqueduct there would be an angled floor on the tunnel. I was just thinking because of the relatively short distance and the volume of water in the lake that the pressure alone would be enough to force it down the tunnel. But it's okay. We learn as we go along here. So I'm going to continue to work on angling this tunnel downward step at a time, and we're going to see if we can't get this cistern filled up over here. Okay, so I've managed to get my aqueduct moving a little bit more this way into my cistern area, but as you can see, I've had to dig quite a bit deeper than I had originally planned. It is possible I could have gotten it down to this depth quicker by shortening each of these steps to, I don't know, maybe one block out from the previous waterfall. But I would have had to dig a lot deeper to get it the distance I wanted it to go. I probably could have gotten it a little bit shallower by extending some of these steps. I may have cut in 1 or 2 blocks more than I needed to get it to move to the next level. So that's something to think about if you're planning to build your own aqueduct. The water doesn't go more than 3 or 4 blocks beyond where it falls from. And in this case, it actually stopped here after it flowed a little bit. So what I'm going to try to do is get this as close to that wall as possible and see if it's within that 3 or 4 steps, if it'll fill up. I'm thinking it probably won't. But we'll find out. Also, being that if I was doing this for a construction of an actual fortification, I would be surrounding, or I would like to surround the aqueduct with reinforced concrete, or at least scrap metal block. And so with that in mind, it probably would have been easier and quicker just to dig down from the surface and instead of trying to dig a tunnel to begin with, since I'm going to be filling it all in anyways. And then of course for security I would have iron bars at the very least at the intake and the outlet, and probably at several stages in between, just in case, you know, the odd zombie got through one set of bars. So I'm going to go ahead and continue digging this, and we'll see what happens. Alright, so I've taken, kind of smoothed out the angle here, and as you can see, the cistern area is not filling up. And we've actually got some weird situation here where the water blocks on the tunnel there keep going from, they keep changing levels from full blocks to half blocks or whatever, and then down here in the cistern we've got blocks that are just you know, not making any sense. There's a block of water there, and it's spilling over into this area, but it's not filling up. So something to keep in mind. Now, why did go to all this trouble in the first place? What do we need a cistern for? Well, it's water, and you need water. So why not have a steady supply brought to you instead of having to constantly run out and fill glass jars with water? Obviously, if this was we don't need a cistern for that purpose. That was just kind of something to make it more realistic, because if this was an actual survival situation, a cistern full of water would be awfully heavy. And there's a pig trapped in my cistern. So, what are we going to do next? We have at least a supply of water that's brought in from outside of our little beginning of a base here, I guess. And it seems like it was a lot of trouble just to bring some water in. Got to dig this big old hole and all that. Well, this can be used for the beginnings of your base too. You don't need to just have a big hole for the purpose of bringing water. This is a, you know, kind of a proof of concept. Can I move water from point A to point B? And knowing what I know now, I could do it a little bit more efficiently. I can, you know, shorten up my tunnel if I can, or remember or know ahead of time I'm going to have to dig deep if I'm moving in any amount of distance. I can dig it in from the top instead of digging the tunnel, and that way I don't have to start with a big hole. I can just dig it to where I want it to go and then build around that. Now, if you have a base already and you want to bring some water to your base, you're going to have an idea of what it's going to involve transporting that water by aqueduct. And as the base that I'm going to be building here gets a little bit more involved, we're going to see if we can use what we know to distribute the water now that we have it flowing to where we want it. Or we may end up just building a wall around what we already have and calling it a day. So that wraps up building a basic aqueduct, knowing what's involved, and what lessons we can take away from it. So, again, this is Weedy, wrapping it up, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, Piggy.